here, they should be here. Like,
That's what I said, there's no COVID anymore.
we'll do our best.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. That's going to be a problem. There we go. Well, it's 5.
Yeah.
It's a very small filled room today. Last year, there's quite a bit more people here last year, I think. Was it? So I feel like everybody in the room knows I'm Melissa Perkins. I'm the secretary for the association right now, and we'll be on for 1 more year. So we're here today for our annual AGM. We'll have, I guess we're going to start with, there is bathrooms back here if anybody needs them, if anyone doesn't know that. And I guess we're going to start with, Natalie will come up and kind of do a quick introduction of the current executive and board members, and kind of just go over the previous year that we just finished. And then we will start with an executive update from each of our members who are here tonight. So I guess with that, I will call Natalie up to this podium.
Okay, thanks, Melissa. I'd first like to start by thanking all of you for coming out tonight and being part of this process. I just really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to be here. I'm going to just introduce our executive that we have sitting up here so that you know who is who. So for those who don't know me, I'm Natalie Amaro. I'm president for another few hours. Then we have Melissa, who's our secretary, who you just met. We have Rob Nurnberg, who's our VP of Initiation, or U7, soon to be our new president. Beside him, we have John Hughley, who's our VP of Development, who will continue to be our VP of Development after tonight. Next to John, we have Jen Tower, who is a member of our Finance Committee right now because our interim treasurer, Terry McFeeters, couldn't be here tonight. So Jen will be doing the financial presentation. Jen is also our incoming treasurer. Then we have Todd House, who's our VP of Rec. Beside Todd is Aaron Hiscock, who's our VP of Comp. Beside Aaron is Craig Foley, who's our VP of U9, and our lovely VP just strolled in. He was here earlier. Had an issue. And then for anyone who doesn't know, that's Rod Sturge. I would like to mention we do have some of our board of directors here tonight. We have Jen Forster, who's the director of administration. Tara is the director of finance, who's not here. Todd Tamander, our rep and chief. Alex LeBlanc, he's not here. He's our director of equipment. John Sears, our director of communication. Ben Harvey is our director of CMHL. Chris Irwood is our director of MMHL. Helen Scammell is our director of registration. Blair Cole is our director of tournaments, and Ryan Sabian, who's our safety coordinator. So that is our current executive and board, which will be changing after tonight. So tonight we're going to have quite a few changes. We have a new president coming in. We have a new VP of administration role that will be up for vote, and you'll get to hear from the candidates in a little bit. We have a new treasurer who I just introduced. We have VP of recreation, which will also come down to a vote. So we'll be hearing from those candidates a little bit later. And VP of development, which is staying with John. We're fortunate to have John reoffer, and nobody wanted to go against him, I guess. So it's yours again. With these changes of executive members, there are going to be a few vacant positions that are midterm. So just to explain how that process works is we will have you, the VP of Risk Management, and the VP of Comp, and the VP of U7. Those are all positions that will be essentially appointed after this meeting tonight. And so what will happen is there'll be a call out for any interested applicants next week. Anybody who's interested will put their submission in. The executive members will essentially interview these candidates, and then it will be appointed by vote of the executive members. So overall, I would say the 2022-2023 season was a very successful season. We won a lot of banners, titles, and championships, which you'll hear about from the different VPs in their presentations tonight. And really, before I jump into anything further, I just want to take a second and thank all of the volunteers in Sackville Minor, the coaches, the managers, treasurers, the executive, the board of directors, our division coordinators, everyone, because without all of you, our association wouldn't be as successful as it has been. So thank you all. Okay. Oh, you're already ahead of me.
Am I?
All right. No, that's good. So this slide really is the looking forward part of the presentation from last year's AGM. So I just want to touch on those. So our initiatives this year was to bring back tournaments, which we did in a big way. We brought back 4 new tournaments this year, and thanks to Blair and Rod for all their hard work on those and their team. Then we had the goalie development. So we were looking at doing more subsidies for the goalies, Come Try Goalie, and the goalie equipment on loan. I'm happy to say we did do the camps, and I think it was well received last September, and it was free. We also went from, I think the year before we had 3 goalies subsidized, and this season we had 18. So that's huge, and you know, it's great to get the interest going because we really need to build up that goalie pot. Then it was the tryout process documentation. I sent an email probably, I think it was January, which kind of outlined it, but really what we wanted to do was completely revamp the tryout process, and with the hard work of Aaron and his team, we were able to do that this year, and a lot of work went into it, and we really appreciate that. We had the equipment buy, trade, and sell, which we did at the beginning of the season last year. That was well received, but then what we did was we created a Facebook group where everybody could just keep it going. So I'm not sure if we'll bring back the in-person one or if it'll just be on that Facebook group. Financial assistance. So we had some money, and for those of you who don't know, essentially what happens is we have 50-50 that stays within the association per player. But once your player ages out or is no longer a member of our association for more than a year, if they have excess 50-50 funds, they get put into a pot. That pot is then used to help families in need and give financial subsidies to people. So this year we started the process and we received applications, and we actually were able to give $7,000 in grants out to help people who needed it. And then finally, it was suspension reduction. We had less suspensions. However, I did notice that they were a lot longer suspensions and a lot more parental suspensions this year. So we're going to aim to work on that for next year. The one other thing I'd like to mention just on our year in review is we did bring back the banquet for the U11 to U15. And we were able to put it on. And I'd just like to thank Melissa Price and her team of volunteers for doing that, because it was very, very fun day, and the kids had a blast, and I think it was very well received. So thank you to Melissa and her team. Okay, I have one more slide. Excellent. So just looking ahead, high level, because you'll hear from each VP in their own presentations, but we're just going to continue to work and improve on the initiatives that we started this year. We're going to look to update and put in new policies and procedures. And we're going to start with looking at our behavioral and our social media policy. When we do get these policies and procedures implemented, they will be enforced. And as I mentioned, there'll be other initiatives that the VPs will talk about. So that's it from me. Next up is Rod.
You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So I'm already starting the plan for next year. This is the Hockey Nova Scotia seasonal chart that is actually out now while we're able to plan. Last year, this came out in the middle of the planning cycle, so it threw everyone off. So what they've said is starting 1 September, we can get kids on the ice, doing camps here around Sackville. And then starting the 15th of September, we can start tryouts. So that's all good, and I'm happy to move forward with that, except now there's an email going around the U15 major teams that's saying their tryouts might be pushed back to September 11th, not starting 1 September, so that might throw a wrench into everything. But I haven't got official word on that. But like last year, we'll keep looking to push the U18 group back till all the high school and all the other stuff is finished so that we don't have kids competing in 2 different tryouts at the same time. So that's there if anyone wants to see it, but there are the 2 dates, September 1, September 15th for next year. So from Hockey Canada, last year they implemented the independent third-party process. That's if you had any complaints. I guess tell you, like, this got pretty busy very fast. Like, that's from the people that are doing these investigations, and having been the subject of multiple of them now, I'm very attuned to the process. Hockey Nova Scotia. So like I said, U15, they might look at changing the date, but there's nothing from Hockey Nova Scotia yet, any changes. Central Minor, so we were supposed to have a meeting of all the reps to have a vote on doing a couple of things, revitalizing U18B and looking at making U13AA and U15A games 90 minutes long. In our meetings that we had last season, there's a lot of interest in doing those things, but we need to have to form a vote. It was supposed to be in April. The president hasn't called a meeting yet. So I'm hoping by September, well, hopefully sooner, that they make this decision and those 2 divisions can go to 90 minutes, and that we get more buy-in from all the other associations to create the U18B League. So we were supposed to try to get it on the go for this past September. An association like Bedford came at the last minute and said, we don't have enough players, which doesn't seem to make any sense. But either way, we're hoping that gets started. And I haven't heard anything from Metro Minor, so there's no changes coming from that league itself. Okay. One of the things I guess I did poorly last year when I scheduled all the tournaments in, we did it throughout the season. So this year, what I've gone and done is found dates for tournaments that have no conflicts with our regular season hockey games. So we're not spending the season trying to make up ice and coordinate ice. So none of these dates will conflict. So hopefully we can have the season start, go all the way through without any major interruptions. Again, the fall face-off, I'm hoping to get that in at the beginning of the season before it really takes off. And if you remember from my very first slide, the league, if you've seen it, it says should start around 14 October. So it might conflict the first weekend, but it's only for a day. And that's not going to create a whole lot of work. And Mr. Blair Cole's back there in the Blue Jays hat. I want to point out that man did a fantastic job taking all this on last year. Fantastic job. Goalie development, we'll look at doing that again in September. Once I get the allotment of ice from all the people I deal with, then I'll come up with another plan. But keep that going and make sure we get enough numbers. We're going to have another look at the tryout process, make sure that it's a living document, trying to make sure we improve it all the time. And the big takeaway, I think, for next year is a lot of people didn't understand how we were, or I guess there was some confusion on how we're managing ice with all the tournaments and conflicts. So this year, what we'll do, we'll just bill every team for bill every team for their ice, but also give them the refund of their 20 weeks based on their registration ice. And I've set out the weeks so everyone knows what weeks I'm talking about that you get your ice for. So if you can go to the next slide, Helen.
Sure.
So it's someone prettied this up for me. This is not the format I had it in. Obviously, someone didn't like the format I had it in and changed it. But I appreciate whoever's really good with this stuff, which apparently is not Rob. So at the end of the day, all the 20 weeks of the Sackville minor hockey season will be laid out. And then I have built in an extra week at the end of the year. That'll be for the playoffs that come out from our leagues.
If it's any consolation, Ron, I actually prefer your slide.
You'll have to figure out who did it. So initial planning guidance. So this is basically just informing the group, but to myself, based on the number of registrations that we expect to have per level. These are the number of teams that we should expect to have. Obviously, skill, number of goalies, all that stuff will have to be taken into consideration. But like this year, we had 3 U15 competitive teams. We're up a whole team next year. So most likely we'll look at having 4 competitive teams. Conversely, U13, we're down a whole team. So we'll probably end up going back to 4. Okay, so because there was 5 last year, doesn't mean there's gonna be 5 this year. It's all depending on the number of registrations. We wanna make sure that each team's competitive as best as possible. So we'll have to adjust. Now, this is a large number for U18, but once U16, high school, all those players taken out, that number will drop. But as you see, B is still listed there. I'm really hoping that takes off this year and gives kids another opportunity to keep playing competitive hockey. All right. So when I'm putting the whole schedule together, just so everyone's aware of all the factors I look at, we will be going back to East Coast Varsity this year. Honestly, we have more ice than any other association. That's a fact. Like we took many hours away from Dartmouth with East Coast Varsity providing us all that ice. Tournaments will not conflict this year. Number of teams, again, if we have 5 or 4, I got to find ice for all the teams. Development, first team practices. So all that means is, and next one is for U11 and U18 and talking to some of the rec coaches I spoke to, it might be best to combine U11 into 2 teams for a practice rather than giving each team an hour and maybe running, twice a month, running it as a skills-based development practice. And for U18, numbers can be hit or miss. So maybe combine 2 teams and, you can run practices, the 2 coaches and get together, come up with a plan, or maybe just scrimmage or whatever, but might be a better use of ice. So throughout the summer, once all the VP of rec and the VP and comp are all in place, we'll figure all this out and talk with John and see how we want to go with all this. Same with this year. So everyone wants to play their games here. I think everyone's aware of that. So we'll try to have all the games here for rec and competitive. And the intent will be to use the stadium basically for U9 because it's the best place to use the half ice boards and then for development. As far as development goes, room 6 right now, if everyone knows what I'm talking about, is the big room that's over at the stadium. The stadium's looking at renting us that space. They haven't officially yet, but all our stuff is in there. So so it makes it a really ideal space for us to be able to keep all our development assets, resources in one spot, all our boards, and then make it easy for whoever got to put off those ice times. Other jersey replacements. So when we passed the new bylaws, one of the things that we really tried to do with that is ensure that spending is really either constrained or enforced. So one of the things we're looking at is trying to start a process of replacing the jerseys, so many every year, so we're never paying one big giant bill. So Alex is going to be looking at starting to replace a bit of the jerseys. Again, September plan, we'll have another hitting clinic. We'll have more the goalie stuff, just development stuff to get the kids ready to start. That'll happen. And once Helen makes this, because she does all our sign-up sheets, it'll be out on the street. Anything else? Oh, some good, some bad, yes. So I'll start with the good. Good. So these are the number of Sackville Minor draftees to the Q over the last 5 years. This year obviously was really good. We had Ben Lindsay, Connor Fosson, and Matt Marmaluk drafted this year from the 07 group. We also had Brandon Lavoie, who's an 06, who got drafted this year. So that's a very good year. So that's really positive news moving forward. I'd like parents to see this. Just so you know, when you start with 150 kids at an age group, this is roughly how many kids actually will even have a name called. But in saying that, to get there along the way, we have some people who are just causing problems. So as Natalie mentioned, one of the things we're going to do is review our behavioral and just all our social media stuff. And honestly, a lot of work gets created behind the scenes. So we really need to take a stand against inappropriate behaviors and what's happening online and just nip it. So part of the responsibility when we discuss creating a new position, VP administration, is that person is now really able to hone in and lay the hammer. All right, anything else?
That was it.
And I did pretty good. I was pretty fast. Did I talk too fast? All right. I can go now. Rob?
Buckle up.
But I'm not going to cry. I won't cry. I think most of you know who I am. My name's Rob Nurnberg. I am currently the VP of Initiation for Sackville Minor, have been for the last 6 seasons. I actually started this coming September will be 16 years since I first started volunteering in Sackville Minor, and the logo at the time was that old logo there. I started in Sackville Minor as a non-parent coach, and it was a non-parent coach for a number of years up until we had our second child. And at that point, I was basically given an ultimatum to get out of the rink and get home to help or find somewhere else to live. So I went home for about 3 years. And then when my oldest boy was old enough to get involved in hockey, Zach, I came back again. So just, hockey for myself is a passion, no question. My greatest passion is my family, and then my second greatest passion is hockey. I've was fortunate enough when I was young, my parents put me in hockey when I was 5 years old. It taught me so many life lessons. I think it helped develop the person that I am today. I always take an approach. I know many of you in the room have heard me say this before. There's always the right decision to make, and there's always the wrong decision to make. And that's something that my coaches when I was younger, and my parents, of course, but in particular, my coaches really instilled in me as a young individual as well. So, I think for us as an organization, it's imperative that we create an environment for the children. To Rod's point earlier, very few, if any, of the children are actually going to be paid to play hockey, let alone make the NHL. So our number one priority is creating a fun environment for the kids so they can develop a love and a passion for the game. And that starts here in initiation. And, this is the lifeline and the lifeblood of Sackville Minor hockey is initiation, where our young players come to learn the game, to enjoy it, to develop lifelong friendships. To this day, I still play in an alumni tournament that when I was younger. I have to admit, I grew up as a Cole Harbour Red Wing. So I still play in the Pee Wee AAA. It was Pee Wee at the time. It would be the equivalent of Pee Wee AAA today. Tournament each summer as well. And again, many of those people that I met and played with when I was 6, 7 years old are still good friends of mine today. So these are the type of life experiences and lessons that our children can learn. And this is the responsibility that we have on the executive to make sure that we're providing this type of environment for the kids. And it lays on the shoulders with all the volunteers that volunteer their time to work with the young kids coming into our groups. So we have, our numbers have been increasing. Our total registration last year was 152 players. That was up about 20 players over the previous year, and that trend seems to be continuing. So our groups are continuing to get larger and larger and larger. Thanks to Rod's efforts to secure additional ice time for the association, because it's likely that we might get at the point where we need to add another category within our initiation group as well, to make sure that we have sustainable numbers within our group, so that we can't have too many children on the ice, because unfortunately then they don't get the proper amount of reps, they don't get the attention that they need at the younger ages. We need to make sure that we have our groups that are manageable numbers, so that they can get the proper instruction and development that they need at these younger ages. These are really where they're going to develop their basic core fundamental skills, and we need to make sure that our group sizings are appropriate for the children. Our Learn to Play program, sorry, I'll just go back just for a second. Our Learn to Play program, we had a huge group. We had 47 players in the group this past season. That's, I dare hazard, it's certainly the largest in the 6 years that I've been involved in the initiation group as a VP. I anticipate that number is probably going to be, up again maybe this year perhaps. Huge number, no question. So that's great to see those number of kids coming into the association. We want to make sure though that they had the experience, and that they're going to continue to have the experience. It's a positive one that they stay in the association and stay involved in hockey, of course. Our U7-1, our IP1 group, we had 33 players registered in that group. U7-2, 33 players as well. And then our U7-3 group was quite large with 39 players. We don't really want to get, ideally beyond 40 players in a group. If we can actually have less, it would be ideal, but certainly we don't want to try to get beyond 40, because then it gets to the point again where your children aren't really getting the attention that they need. They're not going to get the reps that they need at their stations. So something we need to consider, and I know that we've already kind of had that conversation briefly within the executive, with the potential of maybe adding an additional group. So we'll go to the next slide. So for our Learn to Play, again, none of this is possible with everybody involved in the association, regardless whether you're on the board of directors, the executive, whether you're a manager, a safety rep, 50-50, coach. Everybody here volunteers their time, and I honestly feel that everybody's heart's in the right place, and everything that we do is for the benefit of the children. I have to say, Matt Brown is an incredible coach. He's got such a great personality with the kids, really engaging with the children, and that's critical for that connection again with the children, to make sure that they're in an environment where they're having fun, where they're enjoying it. And I know that the coaches' philosophies that I work with in initiation, they have the same mindset. Our goal is that every time a child leaves the arena or the stadium or whatever it happens to be, that the only thing they're thinking in their head is, I can't wait to come back. And that's what we want for our kids. Matt did a phenomenal job along with his assistant coaches as well. Learn to Play is definitely, as I mentioned earlier, it's the entry point for children coming into the association. It's their first experience at hockey. We want to make it fun. Like I said, when they walk out the door, we want them thinking, God, I can't wait till next Saturday when it's time to go back to Learn to Play again. That's what we want to create for our kids. And that's, so we take a lot of time and effort in initiation with regards to, whether, making things fun for them. So, the coaching philosophy is, we want them to work on a particular skill set. So if we take the children and we have them, we want them working a particular skill set, well, it might not be fun for them. So we create, that particular station around, like maybe whether it's with some obstacles or, perhaps maybe some markers on the ice, something fun for them to make it seem like it's a bit of a fun activity for them, but at the same time, they're working on their skill set. I have to say, I have had families from other associations that have actually moved from other associations within HRM, and they've moved into the Sackville area, brought their kids, registered them for initiation. I've had parents come to me and say, oh my God, I can't believe what you guys are doing here. So we're doing something right. There's always room for improvement, no question, but we're definitely doing something right, and that it would be possible without the coaches and everybody that volunteers their time in initiation. Okay, we'll go to the next one. IP1, Brandon Moore, again, very engaged with the kids, a very knowledgeable coach as well, very engaging with the players, again, to create this atmosphere of fun and enjoyment for the players. He did a fantastic job with his coaching staff, with our IP1 group this year as well. Very successful season, and Brendan's another, and Matt as well, both two coaches, actually all the coaches in IP. I should circle back a little bit. My comment here is going to be, these are coaches that are phenomenal coaches. They're in initiation. They're going to be with Sackville for a long, long time. So we're lucky to have these people involved and volunteering their time in the association with the children. But this is Another point where we have a lot of families new to hockey. This is where we draw in new coaches into hockey as well in the initiation category. So something that I'd like to get back on the go again in initiation, and whoever's going to be taking over the role for myself, and I'll certainly work with them closely on it, is I'd like to see bring back a coaches session early in the season, so we can bring the coaches in, talk to them about, what is it as an association that we want to achieve, what are the objectives, what are some things that worked well in the past, what do you have for ideas, and talk about other things, about not just maybe about skill development, but talk a little bit about the mental side of hockey as well, and children. Because, I stole this saying, but it's very true. Children are like popcorn. They all pop at different times, right? So we have to be mindful of that. So we'll go to the next one. Mike Black. Huge shout out to Mike Black. Mike started with us in Learn to Play a few years back with his young fellow, and who is now actually in U9. And Mike continued to say to me, Rob, if you need somebody to coach a team, let me know. I don't mind coaching. So here again, we have a non-parent coach within initiation, volunteering his time above and beyond, going out and helping his own son in U9 throughout the season, and still volunteered to go and coach, be the head coach for the IP2 group again, 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row as a non-parent. So tip of the hat to Mike, if you're online there as well. Thanks for that, buddy. Again, similar to the development plan for IP1, those two groups are very similar. A lot of those, a fair amount of those children are very new to hockey as well. So you've got a bit of a mix of players that have a bit of advanced skill set at that particular time, and some that are new to hockey. So it's critical, again, that we have the right people in place so that they can, manage those groups appropriately and make sure that the kids are divided into like skill groupings as well, so they can maximize their own personal development while still enjoying and having fun while they're doing it. And again, we saw tremendous growth with our IP2 group over the course of the season as well. We'll go to IP3. This just a few highlights from IP2 as well. Again, you can see the smiles on the face. This was, shout out to, it's definitely a hockey community. It's not just Sackville Minor that's involved in things that happen. It's within Sackville Minor, no question. We're in church here right now, the way that I feel. So it takes everybody in the community. So this here actually was one of the Sackville Blazers Junior B games. They had reached out and asked if we could get some kids out for an intermission game. So I was able to get Mike to get some of his players from IP2 to get out for that. This year, we were able to get back into the Moosehead intermission games. Every child's dream. The way that I run that is that we want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to go. So typically, my instruction to our coaches and the staff is that they do a draw for participants to participate in the game. So there's 10 that can go at a time. And then the next game that they get, those 10 are removed. We generally try to get, if there is an extra game, they'll go to the kids that are graduating out, which will be our 6-year-old players. So that the goal there from my own perspective is that I want to have every single child to have that opportunity. My own son, my middle boy, Josh, as he was going through IP, because of COVID, he didn't have that opportunity. He never played in the sets game. So I want to make sure that every child gets that again, and hopefully we'll never have a pandemic like COVID again that will interrupt this great game for the kids. So you can see them on the ice there as well during the game, and then obviously very proud of having their names on their back of the jerseys as well. So we'll go to the next one. IP3, this is the very first year that Roy Dempsey, I'm sure a lot of you know, maybe Roy is an incredible person, very giving individual, school teacher by trade. So he's got, naturally very good interaction with children. He's incredible on the ice with the kids. And not only is he incredible with the kids, but he's got an incredible skill set when it comes to hockey and understanding the techniques of and the mechanics of hockey as well. So I had a lot going on this year, so I asked Roy if he would take over for myself with the group. And Roy was gracious enough to do that. I'm forever grateful, and I think now that Roy's had a taste of it. I don't think he's ever going to want to give up coaching. I think that's pretty evident. So we've got an incredible individual in the association now with Roy as well. And he did just an absolute incredible job with our IP3 kids. I'm really thinking that this 2016 group is going to be a really deep group of players as well. So look out for them as they progress through Sackville Minor as well. We'll go to the next slide. So this is just a few highlights from the IP3 group. This was one of the tournaments. Again, you can see the kids here with the medals on. These are all things that we didn't have over the previous 2 seasons with the COVID restrictions, unfortunately. So nice to see all that coming back. The experience of the Moosehead intermission games, big hugs for Hal. Christmas party with the team. The team went bowling. And again, just an incredible season for the kids. And it's these things, these type of events, right? The tournaments, going to the Mooseheads games, they have the opportunity to stay after the Mooseheads games. For those of you that have taken your kids there before, you know what I'm talking about. You can hang out after the game down in the security area. The players will come out, they'll sign their autographs, the team bonding, the friendships that are built. These kids are all going to each other's birthday parties. It's incredible. So it's not just about what happens in here on the ice. It's the friendships, right? And the life skills and the lessons that they learn as they go through. And this is where it all starts, right? So, a little biased, but in my opinion, this is the most important category for us in association, because this is where everything, this is the roots, right? This is what builds the trees and the branches all stem from, is from initiation. So we'll go to the next one. Sorry, I'm probably going over time here. We were fortunate enough to have some funds available. I know Craig's going to talk about this a little bit as well, but we did have funds available before the start of last season. So we were able to order 6 new of the mini nets that are actually real nets. If you go down to the Zamboni room here at the arena, you can go look at the old beat up ones that are falling apart. So we desperately needed these nets as an association for our younger players. The objective this season is to get 2 more. So that'll give us 4 here at the arena. And then we'll have 4 over at the stadium as well. So hopefully we can get 2 more. I did want to mention Tim Hortons. Not everybody is a Tim Hortons fans. I know we got some Starbucks la-di-da people in the audience. But I'm a big fan of Tim Hortons, not just for hockey, youth sports across the country. Hockey, baseball, soccer. The amount of money and resources that Tim Hortons puts back into communities across the country is incredible. If you have the opportunity to go support Tim Hortons, I encourage you to do so. And no, I don't have shares in Tim Hortons. We'll go to the next slide. We were fortunate enough to have the Rangers come back. Some of the Rangers players came out with initiation as well this year. We talk about player experience, creating an environment for them to have fun in, creating an environment for them when they walk out the door that they want to come back to. So again, we were fortunate enough to have players that are former Sackville Flyers players that played for the Rangers, U15 major team now, come back when they were able to and come out with some of the ice sessions with our initiation groups. It's great for development for the kids. These are high-level hockey players that can execute skill sets and mechanics appropriately, so they can do great demonstrations for the players. Not only that, they become friends of these players. These are players that our young kids will look up to and aspire to be like them as well, to want to work hard, to maybe make the Rangers team someday, okay? Or maybe just to become friends with them. And here we have several players this past season, and these aren't the only 4, but several times throughout the season we had some of our young initiation players go out and watch the Rangers games and cheer on their friends that they had the opportunity to be out on the ice with as well.
Oh.
And
Surprise.
yes, I was wondering where it was, but I was thinking for a minute maybe it was like I did something illegal there and I wasn't able to use their logo, so trademark.
It was just a transition.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
And so just in summary, it was our first full season back without any COVID interruptions. It was an incredible experience for the kids. Certainly tons of testimonials from families in all categories with regards to the experience that their children had throughout the season. My expectation is that all 152, 147 of those kids will register again this season back with Sackville Minor Hockey. And we want to continue to make sure that it's a positive experience for the kids. They develop that love and passion for the game. And when they develop that love and passion for the game, we can pass them over to John and his team to develop them. If they're not having fun, they're not going to want to go do power skating with John and his team. If they're having fun and they're enjoying the game and they love it, they're going to want to go with John all day long. That's the goal for us at initiation. There's nothing quite like the joy and happiness on players' faces as they have the opportunity to experience all hockey has to offer, along with all the life lessons and lifelong friendships. And then you can see the smiles on the faces of the kids there. A couple of things we do in initiation is, I know like historically, I'm sure it was done before, but when I came in, I went out myself and I bought a pile of orange hard hats for the kids so that every team has 3 or 4 hard hats within our groups. And that gives the players throughout the course of the season to be recognized. My favorite one, and I was going to ask if we could play the video, is Helen's daughter. And if you ever have the opportunity, I don't know, maybe can you share that on our Facebook page for me? Will you promise me you'll do that?
I will, yeah.
Share it.
It's a couple years old, though.
It's a couple years, but it speaks to a child that's loving the game, developing a passion for the game. And when she received that orange hard hat, it was the cutest thing. And I've brought this up before. And younger children, Mason, he's 7. I can't, is he 7? He's 6. I don't know, he's 6 or 7. I got too many kids. He's 6 or 7. And sometimes when he's talking, I can't make him out. So I got to ask Josh, what is he saying? Anyway, so she had this little thing which she said, I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Yeah.
And it was the cutest thing. So Helen, share that on her Facebook page, if you don't mind, and watch for that on the Facebook page. That will tell you all you need to know about initiation and what we do there in initiation. So that's it for me. All right, sorry about that. Over to Mr. Foley.
Are you gonna make up the time?
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Craig, you got 2 minutes.
Oops, skipped over. Yes, there you go.
All right. So yeah, just to go over some numbers for U9. Last season was 142. We had registered. We had 8 teams. Again, we had the 2 advancing, 2 intermediate, and it happened last year as well. We had 3 beginning, but we welcome registrations as late as Hockey Nova Scotia allows to process them. So in the end, we ended up, I think it was just after, it was kind of maybe around before Christmas, the dust settled, or a little before that.
I think it was the year before we went from
3
4
to
to
4.
3 or something
3 to 4.
like that. This year
Yeah.
or 4 all through, yeah.
Because the reason why developmental is the one that has to absorb that change is because, all of them are pretty much new to hockey. So when they come into the U9 program, they're going to need close coaching and work on some basic skills that they're only going to get at the developmental level. So we had 4 teams this season, and we're projecting these same numbers for next year too. So registrations projected for next season is 136. We have 64 U9 players moving up to U11. We have 78 that are in U9 again next season. And then from Rod's IP3, we have 58 coming up to U9. So, or IP3, IP2, yeah, combo. I threw some pictures in here just to touch on what Rob's been speaking of here. A lot of the time during COVID, the kids weren't able to do those extra things. And for U9, last season was again, finally, like, it was almost pretty much back to normal. The season before was pretty good. But last season, they were able to just get back to booking floor hockey dates, going on bottle drives, Mooseheads games. Laser tag was popular with a lot of teams last year too. So next slide there. Goaltending development, that's been kind of something that's been on the top of my list, and I've worked with Rob a lot on it. A lot of the coaches have been great. What we've been trying to do in U9 is still allow players to try the goalie position as often as they want. We really need to bump our goaltending numbers up because it was getting pretty low there over the last few years. So we do see some signs of success. We've had some gear donated from the community. Other gear we've obtained from players that aren't using it anymore. And I think we're up to 14 or 15 sets right now for IP U9. So that's really helped also with the initiative of offering free registration to players that want to play goalie full-time in U9 for their U9 playing years. So we have the gear for them, and the registration's free. So that really helped. So October of 2022, we had 9 goaltenders going into the season, and we ended the season with 14. So that was a real nice bump to see there. And it's interesting too, like you get some kids that don't want to jump into goaltending. They try it, it may not be for them, but I was actually quite surprised. We've had a lot of kids that have just gone both feet jumping in at the U9 level for goaltending down. It's really nice to see. So looking forward for goaltending, 7 goalies moving up to U11 next year, which is a good, healthy number to move up with the existing ones there. 7 goalies returning to U9, and talking with Rob, he thinks there's potential for 3 or 4 of the ones that have been trying it in IP who may actually be goalies for our U9 program. So we're creating that steady, hopefully increasing stream of goaltenders to feed up through as the years go on. Again, goalie registration incentive, full season U9 commitment. We have the goalie gear to hand out, weekly goaltender development sessions as well. That was great this year because I know our U9 goalies really benefited from that. It's great. It's outside of their regular practices with their teams. They go for strictly goaltender development. So it's a big help. Next slide. Just want to always touch on this because we have a really good thing here in Sackville with John Hughley and the development team. We have a lot of really top-notch instructors, and I don't think everybody sitting in the stands realizes how fortunate we are to have what we have on the ice for knowledge and skill. So a big thank you to John again for all the help this year with the practice planning. We do have like a team practice where we in U9 can run our coaches practice, work on things that we see from game to game, and then we have the core skill developments that we lean on John's team heavily for our skill development practices. And we've had some great back and forth with John too. Coaches, I encourage all coaches to openly discuss your skill practices with John. What he gives you is usually bang on, but you may see some things that you want to tweak. Maybe receiving passes, maybe things to do with working on some early stages of breakouts in U9. Neil Piskoski was out with us a lot this year. Neil was dynamite. He did a fantastic job with our teams. Modified practices to fit what we identified in some cases that our players really needed to work on. So don't ever forget the communication part. That's key if you really want to get the most out of John's team. Let them know what you need work on, and they'll be there for you. Next one. So jamborees and tournaments. The holiday jamboree in Sackville was a great success. Again, thank you. That was a great organization job. Away tournaments, we got back to more away tournaments. The hotel stays, the things the kids really love is going to the pool and after the games and having fun in the hallways playing mini sticks until the manager yells at you. So one thing I do want to point out is that a couple of our teams this year entered into tournaments that were away, and they paid their tournament registration fees. They got the interest gauged by the parents, but the one thing they waited a little too long to book was the hotel. So as soon as you, as any level of hockey manager here, most managers know this, but just be sure that if you're entering your teams into tournaments, that you look at that hotel as soon as you have any inkling that you're going to go and book your rooms. You can always cancel. But we had some teams, for example, we were in a U9 tournament in Amherst, and we had one team that had to stay all the way up in Moncton because there was nothing. There was Halifax, us, Tassa, everybody was there. The hotels fill up really quick. So just a reminder on that. And then the local tournaments, again, Sedma and Jola Montang. Next slide there. Special events this year, we got back to a lot of those things outside of the rink that the kids really look forward to. Mooseheads games, floor hockey, the bottle drives were a big success. And also we ran some World Junior events too. We had actually the night of the gold medal game, we had the 2 intermediate U9 teams, Ryan O'Flaherty's team, and then the team that I had. We both came up here and watched the gold medal game in the Mez, and kids had a blast. So it's nice to be able to just do stuff like that again with them. Laser tag was a big hit with teams this year too. So yeah, next slide. So Rod touched on this before. I was over there a couple weeks ago and we got everything this was already pretty neatly organized already, but we had some major maintenance on the boards that we had to take care of this year. Thank you to Jason Wall at the back of the room there for helping coordinate that. The boards there was some of the interlocking parts on the board systems that were wearing and fatiguing over the years. So it wouldn't have been cheap to fix, but thank God. I want to say a special thanks out to Josh Dale. He's an IP parent. And if it wasn't for Josh donating his time and effort, along with the welding skills to weld aluminum, which I found out isn't that common a thing to know how to weld. So we were extremely lucky. So again, a big thanks to Josh Dale for donating his time on those boards. So we took a look at them now. They're all set to go. We got them back together, so they're all nice and sturdy. But just to point out here, one of the reasons I put these slides up was because at the stadium, when the IPs or U9s or whoever's using the ice over there, a lot of times we all skate over by those fire exits and fire the TIMS pads over the boards, and they just land where they land. And manager, the caretaker, or whatever will come along and notice the fire exits might be blocked. So we get notifications on that. So just for teams using those, if they are stacked over by the fire exits, make sure they're tight against the boards. But we do have this room, and like Rod said, we're going to start to use this more exclusively to store gear. These pads here are the ones I'm talking about, but they do fit in that room. There's lots of room in there for them. Yeah, so it's just to basically keep the gear out of the way. And at the stadium here, or at the arena here, under the bleachers, I know we've been spoken to a couple times, but just to try and keep them out of the walkway underneath the bleachers and under the board, or under the bleachers. I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Hey everybody, John Hubley, VP Development. So I'll be fairly quick here. I'm just going to take a minute to review last year's season, some of the top line highlights that we did. So the first one, we increased capabilities with two people going to the high performance coaching course, myself and Ben Duffy. Just kind of taking that knowledge from the course and then bringing it back to the association through practice planning and just working with head coaches. We've added a few high-level coaches to the skill development team. It's always evolving and expanding. So a good one for this year, we've added, we had Savannah Newton on the team, and we added Emma as well. And with our growing female registrations, it was really cool to have these two high-level female coaches out being role models with the U9 group. I got a lot of good feedback about that and the job they did. We maintained all of our additional goalie training that we had in place, as well as recreational skill development. So that's something that's not going to go away. And then in terms of the planning, so we just continue to build on the strategic kind of position-specific plans we've been working on for those development station practices. And we're kind of keep working that for different age groups. And then, as they mentioned before, we worked really closely with head coaches to adapt our plans to the needs of the teams, and it was very well received and worked well. And then, obviously, we eliminated the Sackville Minor Hockey app. And looking ahead for next season, so we're not looking to reinvent the wheel by any means, but just a few things to mention. So, on increasing capabilities, we're just looking to add and expand on our in-house coaching resources. It's always going to keep getting better and better, so that's what we'll do. As I said, we're going to continue to add and expand to the skill development team. We got a few people on the hook right now. I'm not going to release any names, but we'll see what comes of it. There's some pretty intriguing people that I'm working on. Like I said, we're going to maintain the goalie training. This is incremental to the weekly skill sessions. This is the goalie only one. That's not going to go anywhere. And then we're going to keep going with the rec skills. We're going to try to optimize this space up here a little bit better, optimize the meds. We got all these hours up here available, and it's an opportunity to improve. So looking to figure something out for that. And then just continue to build off our current development model, working with head coaches. It's really around differentiating the plans from U9, U11, U13. Everyone needs a little something different. Doesn't need to be crazy different plans, but just honing in on the small details of the stations to make sure they're fully optimized. And then we're going to try to tap into a little bit around training and nutrition education. Right from the U7 levels to the U9, it's something that's important to integrate in your mind and your body from a young age, and it just becomes natural as you get older. So looking to find ways to bring that into the association. That's it for me.
Okay, we'll keep this short too, so we can get to the voting part. Name's Todd House. I'm the outgoing VP of Rec. Before I jump in the results of the season, I've considered this season to be a success because we were able to enjoy an uninterrupted year of hockey. We got back to tournaments again and back to fans in the stands. So in U11, we had one team qualified for the gold division in the playoffs and 3 teams in the silver division. The Sharks finished second in the league, and the Leafs and Bruins first and second in the silver division. In the U13, we had all 4 teams qualified for the gold division playoffs, with the Canadians finishing second in the league. U15, we had the Canadians in the gold division, and the Leafs and Sharks played in the silver division. On to U18, the Bruins played in the gold division playoffs, and the Leafs and Sharks Canadians all played in the silver division. Fairly strong results across the board, considering we added some teams to our competitive side, but the rec teams still remain competitive. Season highlights. Oh, no.
Did I skip one? Oh, sorry.
Yep. Okay.
My down button is skipped it. Sorry.
Season highlights would have to be the March Meltdown tournament. In the U11 and U13 division, we had all Sackville finals in it. And if you were here, the rink was packed. Both sides of the rink were loud. The atmosphere was incredible. Both games went to overtime to decide winners. And it was just an all-around good experience for the kids. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about our rec division. Believe it or not, if your child doesn't make a competitive team, hockey's not over. You can go to the rec division. Our rec teams receive equal ice time to the competitive teams, receiving a practice hour a week. Unlike some associations where they give their rec teams 1 hour a month. There's the opportunity to develop with the development team. You can sign up for extra sessions. They're not mandatory at the rec level, but you can sign up to work on your skills. And most important in the rec program, the players will still learn the game, they'll make new friends, and they'll have fun. Finishing off, since I only have an hour and a half or so or 2 hours left in this position, I have some thanks to say. I'd like to thank the division coordinators, Morgan, Natalie, Nicole, and Mike. You guys were awesome this year and helped make the season run smooth. To all the coaches, managers, and other team support staff, thanks for all your efforts and making the best experience possible for the players. None of this is possible without your dedicated group of volunteers. And to the executive and board members, it's been a pleasure to work with you. The time and effort you put in behind the scenes is absolutely amazing. And I'm sure Sackville Minor is in good hands. And I will miss working with all of you, but I will not miss doing these presentations.
Hey everybody, I'm going to do my best to keep this quick. I promise it's not a full book. So last season I stood up here and I had a whole bunch of numbers, wins, losses, goals for and against, winning percentages, all that stuff. This year, it's all changed.
I might have made it
Pictures
prettier.
in.
Oops.
Anyways, we had 15 competitive teams we iced this year. Out of those 15 teams, the majority of those teams won at least half our games, if not more. So majority of our teams playing 500 or 500 plus hockey. That's fantastic. 2 teams brought home league banners, championship banners from the Central Minor Hockey League, our U15A team and our U13B Orange. I was fortunate enough to hand out both those banners at those games. It was a lot of fun hockey to watch. It was pretty intense. So great job by those guys. Great job by all our teams. First measure of success we like to talk about is wins and losses. Grand scheme of things, that is the least important piece of the puzzle. The process and the desire, the want to win, I think is important. But by far the most important measure of success is wanting your kids to have fun. And the kids finding a way to have fun while they're playing. So just to piggyback back on that, I guess, a little bit. And I stole this from an article I read. I didn't make this up. So we all know the 24-hour rule. You know, you have a problem or an issue, a concern or whatever, take 24 hours before you reach out to the coach. Let things settle out, all those things. Great rule. Consider a 24-year rule for your kids. So when your kids are 24 years old, whatever level they're playing at now, what would you prefer? They're still loving the game and finding a way to play it, whether it's a beer league, some pickup hockey somewhere, college intramurals, whatever it is. Or they hate the game now, they've given it up, they've thrown away the gear, they've gotten rid of it, and they no longer play. I hope when my kids are 24, they're still trying to find a way to play the game. Next slide. So, yeah, this is perfect. So I guess on that too, another way we measure success, we can measure success, is how we're playing the game. And I remember standing up here, I don't know if it was last AGM or maybe when I was running to take on this position. And I didn't see us playing the game the way I thought we should or well enough. I can tell you after watching, even through COVID to now, the way we're playing the game, I go watch U11s when they're on the ice at East Coast Varsity before I was on the ice with my rec team. To see kids out on the ice, taking pucks off the boards, instead of throwing it right back up the ice, up the boards to the other team's defenseman, peeling out and making a partner pass, or looking for an option up the ice, moving the puck up the ice. Good habits. U13, especially U13B Orange, watching them in their championship game, they probably won that game because of how they back-checked in the game. Straight up the middle of the ice, their defensemen were standing up, breaking up plays, and moving the puck quickly. Same with their U13 AAA team, finding way more success this year because they had a better team game. They were playing as a unit, moving the puck, and finding a lot of success with just quick transitions. That those back checks and having your D stand up, making plays, allows you to play that way. U15, U18, watching those kids play now, they've kind of owned their skills for the most part. Creativity for some of them starts to really settle in. When those kids can go out there and run 3-man or 2-man cycles in the corner and really lock you in the other team in their end while they're playing the game, it's a lot of fun to watch. So I absolutely believe we are heading in the right direction in how we play the game. I think it's come a long way, and it's a testament right through IP, through John Hubley's development program. It's only getting better. It's always been good, and each year we just continue to build, and it just keeps making it better. So great stuff there. Next slide. Another piece to the puzzle in finding success, the team environment. It's not just a coach's message or philosophy. It's equally important at home. And I guess the best example I could use is that U15 AA. When we were sitting down for our parents' coach meeting at the start of the season, the very first rule was don't talk about players on the team. Support all the players. Like, wow, somebody said it. So it was, and it's all about, if we're in the stands talking about players and we're not happy with how guys are playing or whatever's going on, if we're saying that in front of our kids, it's finding its way to the classroom, it's finding its way in the dressing room, and it'll tear your team apart. That was the very first rule. young coaches, second year coaching, only a handful of years out of playing minor hockey and high school hockey, right? So good on them, and it was a blast to be in the stands and watch those games. Also, I would encourage everybody, whether you're watching on YouTube or here, go back to the slides, click these links from YouTube. If you ever watch, there's a program, it's a coach's site. They do a lot of different stuff, have coaches on ice stuff. They do symposiums or whatever, conventions, have people come and do lectures. And there's a lot of sound bites, different sound bites with Ray Ferraro. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but former pro hockey player, pretty good player. One of the best hockey analysts you're going to find on TV to listen to, especially if he's doing the World Juniors with Gordon Miller. He's incredible to listen to. But to hear it from him and the way he breaks it out, I thought it'd be best just go back, click these links when he talks about building a player for coaches. It's not just, this is your message and away you go. This is how we're doing it. There's a lot of, you could coach. We tend to coach the way we were coached when we were players. So a lot of that times that turns out to be in that old school hockey coach that's yelling and throwing stuff and whatever to try and motivate kids. That's what they say, or how they're coaching or running their bench, all those things. Basically, when you watch that video, the cornerstones are communication with the players. They might not like how they're being coached or what's going on, or they might not understand. You have to have communication with the players. The other piece is being respectful of your players. Think of yourself, how do you want to be treated before you talk to your players? Like the days of throwing a bag of pucks across the room or kicking over garbage cans and all that stuff to try and get your guys to understand we're motivated. We don't need to do that stuff. So communicate and respect your players like you want to be, treat them like you want to be treated. And then at the same time, creating healthy parent-coach relationships. That's like a whole podcast, that clip there. So if you fast forward to about 34 minutes, it's about 10 minutes long when they really dig into talking about this. And he couldn't say it any better. So he really spends a lot of time talking about the emotion we feel as parents watching our own kids play and not being able to separate ourselves from that amongst all the other kids on the team. And that's where a lot of our issues come from, is can't separate that emotion out and just step back and be mom or dad and just watch. It's extremely hard to do, but if you can do it and you can just go and watch the game, man, it's a lot of fun to be in the rink. So I would encourage everybody to please take the time to just go watch those. It's a good message for everybody, parents, coaches. And then, so one more. So I guess season highlights. This one in particular, I kind of threw something out to ask for people to chime in with whatever highlights they might have. And I got this back. So first, hats off to Blair and Rod for all the work they put into the tournaments we had this year. It was phenomenal to have those back. Our U18-A playing in our memorial tournament. The division was named after Sergeant Shane Schofield. So they had helmet stickers done up. You can see they had the jerseys done up to honor those who have served and those who continue to serve. And so Sergeant Schofield's parents actually came to the dressing room for their semifinal game, which is a pretty big game for them, and talked to the boys. So I can only imagine how emotional that was. But the experience that those young men got to have through that, hockey's so much more than just hockey. This is a huge, huge piece of life. The things they're going to take away from that'll help carry them forward. That's incredible. So I thought that was pretty special. So hats off to them for being involved and diving into that the way they did. Fortunately, they didn't. They came up a little short, but again, that experience. I want to say special thanks to really all our volunteers, coaches, managers, 50-50, safety people. That's not a fun and pleasant job at times, but especially to our division coordinators, Morgan Spicer, Natalie LaFleche, Dennis Amiro. Dennis, who really went above and beyond this year, and Mike Kennedy, who always does as well. Being a division coordinator, sometimes there's nothing to do. It's great. It's easy. And sometimes there's too much stuff to do and not fun to do at all because it just keeps coming at you. But they really do a lot in the background, dealing with teams and issues or whatever else is going on and answering questions before it even comes to us. So they have things dealt with or at a level where it's just easy for us to deal with before it even gets to us. So that's huge. And then I guess last piece I'm going to say right quickly, you notice I didn't say anything about tryouts. And that's probably a big piece. And the biggest piece of my role is VP of competitive. I am stepping away from the role after tonight. And so I didn't feel it appropriate for me to interject a whole bunch of stuff into the tryout process. But what we did do this year so far is we did have a bit of a lessons learned and some brainstorming, some idea sharing with a bunch of people. So that's all been collected. Some of those things have already been added into the tryout process or updated. But that's really for whoever's going to take on this role to dive into that and put their thumbprint on it, because ultimately it's their responsibility, it's their role to look after it. It's a massive piece of work, just the planning, the ice time, all that scheduling, all that stuff, the work that goes into finding volunteers. But the biggest piece I could say is we need people to volunteer. We need more volunteers. It's easy to say, well, I don't want to be, seen as an influence into how my kid's done or what team he lands on or all those things. We're going to put all those kinds of things aside and get involved. We need people. Like having the third party, like the Dow guys come out, that's fantastic. But we saw this year, like they were there when we did our U13 AAA and our U15 AA tryouts. We couldn't get them because of their schedules, their work schedules, their school schedules, their playing schedules. We couldn't get them for the rest of the tryouts, which left us with a huge hole to fill. So the more people we can have and come out and evaluate, and whether it's evaluate or whatever else needs to be done, please just throw whatever concerns you have aside and come volunteer. There's no reason why it can't be a positive experience for a lot of people. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. It's emotional, but it's a lot of hours for a lot of people. It's a grind, but we need volunteers. So that's my piece.
And there's free pizza.
Thanks, everybody.
There's free pizza.
All right, so I will start by saying a massive thank you to Tara. She is the person who put all of the work into this. I can't take the credit for it. She stepped in as interim treasurer this year on top of being the director of finance. So she had a lot of work to get through. So big thanks to Tara. And also with her doing both jobs, we added a temporary finance committee over the last year. And so thanks to Mark Salter and Chris Manchikowski for helping out in the fall. They helped out with team budgets and also setting up the new financial assistance program that Natalie talked about. And also thanks to the team treasurers, there's a lot of work that goes in there as well. So I'm going to go through two statements. One's the balance sheet and one's the income statement. The balance sheet is essentially a snapshot of where things sat as at April 30th this year, what the association owned and owed, basically April 30th. And then I'll go through the income statement, which is a summary of the revenues and expenses that we collected and paid out from May 1st, 2022 to April 30th. So we'll start with our assets. Assets are what we own. And we've got cash there. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's a little fuzzy, but cash of $742,000. In that $742,000, though, is actually the $621,000 that shows down here under our liabilities, and that's the players' 50/50 account. So, we have $742,000 that shows there at April 30th. Once registrations come in, whatnot in the fall, that money's going out to pay for ice and everything else. So it's kind of artificially inflated at the end of the year. It's not that high throughout the year. We also had accounts receivable of $62,000 at April 30th. This is just team accounts that weren't closed out by the end of the year. Tara's been working pretty hard over the last couple of years. I've noticed a decline in what's sitting in our receivables at April 30th. So she's working pretty hard with the team treasurers to get those closed out. But sometimes there's just a couple items that are holding us up that can't get those accounts closed out. There were no prepaid expenses at the end of the year. So our current assets were sitting at $805,000 at the end of the year. We had some equipment, which is essentially our goalie equipment, those small nets you heard talked about earlier, jerseys. These are items that have a useful life. We estimate of about 3 to 5 years. So we put that on our balance sheet as an asset, and we take the expense in over time. So you'll see when I go through the income statement, it will show there as depreciation. So total assets sitting at $841,932. Down to our liabilities, what we owed out, accounts payable is completely payable to the lottery commission for the 50/50 and the hockey pool. That has since been paid. Deferred revenue, I'm going to kind of chat with deferred revenue along with the players assistance fund down here for $31,000. Last year, the deferred revenue was money that came in as a donation from Ultra Electronics to help those less fortunate provide pay fees or provide equipment, whatever they needed. So we did pay out a bunch of that, but the rest that was not paid out is sitting in the Players Assistance Fund that Natalie talked about earlier that we're using from the 50/50 amounts that are not going to be used if players aged out or whatnot. So that's all now sitting under the Players Assistance Fund. Next is a jersey replacement pot. $30 per player is included in the registration fees. So we're now keeping track of that separately so that when we do need to go and replace jerseys, we actually know how much is on hand for that. The players 50/50 account I spoke about earlier. So in total, the liabilities were $678,000 at year end. And the equity is essentially what's left over if we pay out all the liabilities. What we have left out of our assets would be $163,000. Income statement. Sure. So the income statement is essentially what registration fees are covering. It's not including all those amounts from your team budgets and amounts that are reimbursed to the association from the teams. That's all netted here. So this is really just showing what your registration dollars are covering. Revenues were up. There were, I think, about 70 additional registrations for players this year. So we've got $610,000 there. Administrative costs were relatively even. Bank fees, meeting rooms, and year-end banquets included in there. Development costs were down. They include instructors and the stealth hockey training program. The wellness app that was used over the previous 3 years is no longer being used, and that generated cost savings. Depreciation of $23,000, that's where we're taking in the value of some of the equipment each year. Equipment is just minor stuff that we don't bother taking in as assets that don't hold a lot of value. Our hockey pool, teams were not charged this year, so the expense there is $13,000 instead of $1,600 when we realized we were going to have some excess funds. Ice was down this year as the association covered 1 hour versus 1.5 in 2022. Initiation as well as league fees remain pretty consistent at $2,000 and $6,000. Referee costs were up $57,000 over 35. This is good news. It was due to no COVID shutdown, so the kids got to play more hockey. Risk management's up slightly at $75,000 over 71. This includes coaching courses and background checks, but it's also the big thing in here is insurance, and so insurance is up over last year. Then the last item under expenses are tryouts, $8,800 over $2,800, and this is due to a Team Genius app that's being used during tryouts for about $5,000 annually. So $552,000 in expenses that were covered off by registration fees this year. So the profit there, yeah, 57,000. And after that, we also had some profit from the 50/50 for about 31,000. We've already spent over 20,000 of that printing tickets for next year. So it really depends on how much fundraising parents do and stuff over how much we need to pay out in ticket printing and what the carryover is from year to year. And then also, as we discussed earlier, we had some tournaments this year and made about $5,800 from them. So our total profit this year was $94,872. And we'll have some conversations basically to determine what we're going to do with that in order to put it back into the association. That's it.
Thanks, Jen. I just want to take a minute and introduce the special guest we have here tonight. Jason Hale is here from Hockey Nova Scotia. He's our regional director. And I'd just like to call Jason up quickly to do a special presentation. And then we'll move on to the candidate speeches. And then once the speeches are done, voting will open.
Every year, Hockey Nova Scotia recognizes an individual with what's called a certificate of appreciation. So our region is Halifax East. That region consists of Sackville, Bedford, Minor, and Stance. And I'm very happy to announce that your very own Helen is the recipient.
I'm voting already. It's not even finished.
Smile for the camera.
Helen, smile.
She's my
Oh, you can do that.
Are we following?
Really nice. She's
Natalie's dead dust.
Very cool.
Well deserved, Helen.
Well, thank you.
Yes, that award is very well deserved, that's for sure. So thanks to all the executive members for taking the time to prepare their slides and their speeches today. It's appreciated by everyone. And we do have actually several people watching online as well. So we will start now with our, I guess, incoming position. So as we said already, Rob Nerber is elected by acclamation, as well as Jen as treasurer for the upcoming year. So we will start with, I guess, our VP of Recreations will have the two candidates come up to give a little speech, and we will start with Dan McDonald.
I thought I had one for John's name. There, it skipped over it again. John, thanks, John. You're back too. I was gonna say it was there. It skipped it.
Hi, everybody. A lot of you in this room know me. I'm Dan. I've been a proud member of the Sackville Flyer family for 10 years as a coach. I've often coached both of my children in any given year, and I now currently have one child remaining in the U18 division, and I love it. I love every single thing about being a member of this community and this association. I really would like to start off by thanking the current board that is here. I've been on both sides of everything here, as you know. I've been a member of the board. I started as director of tournaments. I held the position of VP of development, and for a short time, I was the president of Sackville Minor Hockey. So I understand the amount of commitment that you guys put into this, and without everything that you do, as Robert and many of the other people said tonight, this just doesn't happen. So thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart and everybody in Sackville Minor Hockey for everything that you guys do. To the outgoing members, again, thank you for your time and commitment to the association. While I was sitting back there listening to your speeches, what stood out to me was your passion more than anything. I'm not gonna bother reading all the little things I had on my platform because a lot of it is very repetitive of what you guys all set up here, and that makes me super excited to hopefully get the support from the members here to be elected as the new VP of Recreation, because I'm looking really forward to working with you guys. Your passion is what shines through. So thank you very much for that. I'm excited to, just a couple of things that I think are important for the VP of Recreation role. Registration at the start of the year. Sometimes there's people that have questions. You guys have done a phenomenal job. Our administration team here they're top notch. Without them, that whole transition to the hockey, the new Hockey Canada database would have been a pretty difficult thing, but you guys navigated that and you rocked it. So thank you for that. As a VP of Rec, I promise to be available all summer. My phone is always on. My email would be on the website. If I can get your support, I promise I'll be there to help you through that process as much as I can. Once registration happens and competitive tryouts are completed, then we do the rec evaluations. And Todd, you've done a phenomenal job the last few years with the rec evaluations. I know sometimes things were kind of dumped in your lap, and you rocked it as well. You did a phenomenal job, and everybody that helped make those things go well, thank you. Another area of importance, obviously, is development. That is a passion of mine. I love seeing kids develop. Johnny Hubley is a phenomenal VP of development. Him and I have talked many times over the past years and stuff, and like we are on the same page, totally 100%. Robert, in your speech earlier, you were talking about the coaches' meetings. That is something that I would look forward to putting back in place as much as we can, perhaps like at the start of the year, maybe halfway through the year, and then at the end of the season. What we do as coaches is we steal things. And I stole something from an amazing coach named Chris Donnelly. He did a presentation here one night, a coach's presentation, and it really matched with my philosophy as a coach, where I think you have to put fun at the top. And he had this circle drawn. And at the very top of the circle was fun. And as you moved your way down, the next thing was development, and then it was success. So it just continues. The circle will continue. If you're having fun, you'll develop, you'll have success. When you're having some success, and to your point, Aaron, it doesn't always have to be in wins and winning tournaments and championships. It's learning a new skill or doing something that you didn't think you could do. Those are true successes, okay? Just getting better at the game. And as you said, this is about life skills that we learn here in minor hockey. So the fun, development, success is a cycle that just continues. So I look forward to helping you guys continue to create that environment here in Sackville, because we're doing a great job of that. The last key thing that I think is important is communication and availability for this role. There's going to be many, many questions that people have. A lot of the work is done sort of in the start of the year, where we do the rec evals and we get the teams all set up and underway. I want people to feel 100% free to come to us with absolutely anything. We want to have great communication back and forth with all the families here. And so anything you want to ask, I'll do my best to answer those questions. And if I can't answer them, I'm sure one of these fine people here can definitely get an answer for you. So other than that, I just look forward to your support. Minor hockey is an amazing experience, and I promise to work as hard as I can to help you and all your families have a wonderful experience at Sackville Minor Hockey. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and ahead of himself here. I'm just going to get Chris Marchand to come up now.
Hey everyone. A lot of you probably know me in the room. I have a young fella. He's playing his U11. He's 4 years in Sackville Minor, and I've been involved with him since he started. And I played for Sackville from the time I was 5 until I was about 16. So then I moved on to high school hockey. So I will read my speech because I'm not the best public speaker. So my name's Chris Marchand. I'm running for the position of Vice President of Recreation at Sackville Minor. Hockey Association. So my roots in SMHA date back to 1989. When I started playing hockey in Sackville, when I was 5 years old. Most of my competitive hockey career was in Sackville minor system. I moved on to play high school after the conclusion of my second year band. I can still be found at the stadium on Wednesday nights chasing the glory of Gentlemen's Hockey League champs. My love of hockey was instilled at the old rink through SMHA. I'd like to have the opportunity to give back to the association through this position. I feel as though I would be suitable for the position due to my volunteer board experience. I'm no stranger to volunteer board executive positions. I am the current past president of the board for one volunteer organization, and where I had held the president's role for 4 years. With a total of 9 years of service in county. I'm also the second vice president of another volunteer board where I've sat as a board member for 4 years. This board experience would make me an asset to the SNHA board. If given the role of VP of Rec, I would use this opportunity to work with the VP of Development, John, to develop player skills such that they can derive as much enjoyment from hockey as possible. I'd also like to see them continue to love their game through the association. The most important part of this role would be for the kids to have fun. That's what hockey's all about. Like we were in the tournament today. It was one of those fun days I've had in a long time, is watching our kids play hockey. So it'd be all about the kids having fun and wanting to continue to love the game. And many of you would know me through hockey, through my current involvement with SMHI. I would have played with some of you in my minor hockey days, and with or against you in my gentleman's days. You would know that I'm passionate about the game of hockey, and I'd love to use that passion to help the association further the development of the players in SMHA. Please support my bid for the role of Vice President of Recreation at the Sackville Minor Hockey Association. I would be grateful for the opportunity to work with the board and give back to the association that had given so much to me over my younger years. Please give me your vote of support. I look forward to working with the board with you.
Thanks, Chris. So that wraps up for the VP of Rec. So good luck to both of you guys in the vote. And we will move on to the VP of Admin position, which we also have 2 candidates for today. And Jen Forster is our first one.
I know, it's all cords.
Safety hazard, right? Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. I'm Jennifer Forster, running for the position of VP Administration for Sackville Minor Hockey. As you may have noticed from the financial statements that Jen Howard presented earlier, Sackville Minor Hockey is about hockey primarily, but it's also a business. There's a lot of money that flows through here, and there's a lot of moving parts to any not-for-profit association, but especially a minor sport association. I believe my professional legal career experience makes me ideally suited for this position. I have over 15 years of private practice experience in corporate law, including as partner in one of the largest firms in the city, more recently as managing partner of one of those firms, where I was responsible for the overall administrative operations of the lawyers within our firm. As a corporate lawyer, my role was not only to provide legal advice to my clients, but also to provide strategic business advice to them as well, for both my corporate and not-for-profit clients. My current position is as Registrar of Joint Stock Companies of the province of Nova Scotia, meaning that I am still using my legal background as I am the primary administrative decision maker for any disputes involving the programs and legislation that our office is responsible for, which includes the creation, maintenance, and enforcement of all businesses operating in Nova Scotia and all not-for-profits operating in Nova Scotia, including Sackville Minor Hockey. So my office is responsible for the legislation that governs Sackville Minor and other not-for-profits, including the filings and updates that we are responsible to make to the registrar. The last 2 years, I've
I've been team manager for my son's Sackville minor teams at U9 level and this year at the U11 level. And during that same period, I was appointed to the board in the position as Director of Administration, where my primary role was to help guide the executive on governance issues and also participate as needed in dispute resolution and grievance matters. My largest task over the past year in particular was the preparation of a new set of modern bylaws, which we just approved in this past May. That was no small feat, and as I indicated at the meeting that night, that task is never done. The initial work on revising those bylaws was started by a small group of members who were dedicated to putting their talents together. They had great ideas, great input. I want to continue that work, working with them and anyone else who is interested to continue to see how those new bylaws actually help guide the association going forward and change them as need be. It won't be a 23-year, 25-year task. We'll be watching how things are functioning. As changes need to be made, they will be made. It is, as to steal Rod's words from earlier tonight, the bylaws are a living document and they need to reflect how we operate and how we want to operate as an association. As VP of Admin, I would support the overall administrative operations of the association as a whole, including assisting with the planning of this meeting, the AGM, and any special meetings throughout the year. Be responsible for the ultimate fundraising that is carried out through the association, including the acquisition of the lotto licenses, assisting the registrar with any registration matters, and financial assistance and collection of delinquent accounts, which so far Tara's done a great job of taking care. My first full task as VP of Admin would be to review and update all of our existing policies and procedures that we have in place, see what needs to be improved, what is working, and then also to develop new policies that need to be created based on current events and current new direction strategic initiatives that are coming down from both Hockey Nova Scotia and Hockey Canada. None of this work can happen in a vacuum and none of it can be done alone. So we're looking to form committees as necessary to help tackle this work and of course collaborate with the entire board and the executive. It's important, as Dan mentioned, for our membership to be as included as possible in not only the policies and procedures that govern the association, but all activities in the association. Any members interested in volunteering their time, there are many, many, many opportunities to do so. And I'll continue to encourage our membership to get involved any way they are willing. Anyone who can't volunteer their time, it would be imperative on the executive and on the board to continue the great work that's been doing to keep those lines of communications open, to at least share what's happening at this level, and open up the ability for feedback if there is any. I look forward to working with our membership more closely and the board, the executive, to have the best association possible for our kids, hoping that mine in particular, who I just saw running around in the background, is in this for a really long time. Today was a great day. Very happy coming home from Moncton. It was fabulous. And so I'm asking for your support and your vote as Vice President of Administration.
Thanks, Jen. And finally, I would like to call Chris Manchikowski up for his speech.
Right on. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who attended here in person and is online. I think it's a very important thing for people to participate in these types of events. So it's great to see everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I've only been in this association for 3 years as my family and I relocated from Alberta right during COVID. I had some history out here, so I had an opportunity to move back. So love it out here now and trying to get involved more in the community and with some of the local associations. So my name is Chris Manchikowski, and I put my name forward for the VP Administration role within Sackville Minor Hockey Association. I've been involved in hockey my entire life, playing and coaching into my university years. Minor sports was a major part of my childhood, playing hockey and baseball whenever I could, right up until university, where I was part of the St. Mary's men's hockey team for 4 years while I completed my Bachelor of Commerce degree. The past season, was the head coach, one of the U13B teams here in Sackville. The previous 2 seasons, I helped out as an assistant coach. And as Jen mentioned earlier, I helped out with the finance committee this year as well. Also, sticking with the Sackville community, I'm a current board member of the Sackville Minor Basketball Association. I'm also coaching minor baseball this summer. So as you can see, I have a strong passion for giving back, and particularly to the youth in our community here in Sackville. And just a couple key areas I looked at in the responsibility of this role is helping with the register and financial assistance and delinquent accounts. So then being involved with the, like I mentioned, the finance committee, helping form the player assistance fund. I think it was a huge step forward for the organization. The people before did a good job identifying there's some excess money there, and no better way than to help support some people that can't put their children in hockey. And to me, that's probably one of the biggest sins is that we can't make this sport affordable for children that deserve it. So, in addition to being involved in that committee, as well as my education, my work experience as a chartered professional accountant, I think this will allow me to give some guidance and support to the board. Another key area would be helping with some of the disciplinary items. And myself as a coach last year, it was a very challenging year. Ran into some very unique situations that I've never encountered as a parent or a coach in minor sports. So I think based on some of those real life encounters and understanding, as Aaron mentioned, the emotions as a parent, being a former player, understanding the parent side, understanding the coaching side, and then maybe understanding the board level, I think that could make me a valuable asset to the organization to help guide and direct some of the parents or participate in the matter. So kind of wrapping up here, I can't really emphasize strong enough my desire to help ensure the young athletes of Sackville have the most positive experience, all while making sure they have fun and learning good life skills as I did growing up playing minor sports. I have keen listening skills, and I want to make sure all issues and concerns are dealt with in a fair and consistent manner. And in closing, I think, as I've said a few times, my passion is really giving back to the community and volunteering with youth. I'm confident my education, work experience, and hockey background make me an ideal candidate for this position. So thank you for your consideration.
Natalie's whispering things in my ear like she has been for the last year and a half. Just kidding. So thanks to all the candidates for coming up and kind of giving their speeches, and hopefully they kind of gave you guys some good insight into what they're able to offer to the association, and you guys will be able to make your best vote based on what they presented to you and what their platforms that hopefully everybody took the time to read through this week offers. So we are running behind, as that is what I was being whispered about. So we do have a short time though for any questions that anyone here may have. So if anyone has any questions for any of the executive members at the table, you can now just stand up or raise your hand and you can ask it. Any questions? Going once?
I think they were told to email you if there was anything. Did you get anything?
No.
No. Okay. I'll just double check.
No.
I think I might have disabled it and just told them to email because I knew I couldn't look at it here also. Yeah, no, there's nothing. Just look here too. I'll look at the stream. Just to see. No, I think I disabled it. So yeah, if anyone had any questions, they could email it in, but we didn't get anything.
Okay, so if nobody has any questions, we will move forward with the voting. So oh, sorry, just kidding. Natalie has some closing remarks. This will be quick.
Yeah, we'll be really quick.
I just want to say that the last year for myself has been a really growing experience, and I was, really proud to have been the president of this association. And you are in really great hands having Rob come in. Rob and I have worked together on the board for the past 5 or 6 years. He'll be fantastic. With Rob moving into that role, it doesn't mean I'm officially gone. I will still be on as past president for a while, so you're not fully got rid of me yet. And before we wrap up, I really just want to thank Aaron and Todd for all the work you've put in, and you'll be missed by me and the rest of the board for sure. So thank you again.
Obviously, one last thing. Obviously, Natalie is no longer going to be the president after tonight. I want to thank Natalie from the executive and the board for putting in the time behind the scenes. We started a lot of initiatives, and she did an excellent job making sure we're all on track. And Rob, you're going to have to cut down your time because she didn't take that from Rob. You need to learn from the past president how to shorten up your speeches. Natalie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll have my own.
No, secretary.
We'll have a separate AGM for what I have to say.
This meeting is now officially closed. Voting can start.
So I think everybody in the room should have their ballots from when they came out to register. If you don't, they're still down at the front desk, so you can go get your name checked off and receive your ballots down there. The ballot box is over there. I'll be making my way over there now, and the ballot box is over there. So you can, there are some pens and that you can drop both ballots into the same box. They're each different colors, so easy to separate later. And we do have Jason here staying to oversee our count later, and I've asked a member of the membership to stay as well to assist with the count for transparency. I love that word.
Someone got my.
Yes, I know.
You did?
No, I'm going to rip one of these up right now.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I want to say.
For anyone still tuning in, I know you can't really see the screen very well, so we have already posted the link for the slide deck that you can look at, okay? Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna end the stream now. Good night.